Whoever designed hands was definitely not thinking of us humble 2D animators. How much easier would they be to animate if they were just balls or fists with no moving parts? Except we wouldn't be able to use our mouses and keyboards and pencils and things. So we have no choice, we have to animate hands somehow. Today I'm going to present 5 ways that you can animate hands. Or not. I'm alive. Well, hello, my name is Mark David Stallard and welcome to I'm Alive Animation. Hands, hands, and more hands. But first, a word from our sponsor, me. I just released a short film called Reach Up and Try Again. 20 minutes of comedy and music, and mostly comedy. The animated title sequence was of course created by I'm Alive Animation. Duh. It features my band, It's All in the Mind, who were also heavily involved in production. I wrote, directed and edited it. You can watch it now on YouTube, right now, on YouTube. Link is, you know where the links are. So let's get on with it. 5 ways to animate hands. Or not. Number 1, don't show the hands. Okay, I did say or not. Well, this is not a cop-out actually. This is a technique that illustrators and animators have used since the beginning of animation, since the beginning of art. You know, you've got a character whose hands are dominant. Well, guess what? This hand is under my arm. I don't have to draw that hand. What I mean is that just make the design as simple as you can. I've actually got an example here for you. This is actually an early scene in the movie. I'm in process of animating it. I haven't got the band playing, but I do have Mona. You'll recognize Mona from earlier videos. So here we go. So we've got some old people here, and what you'll notice if I zoom in is that all of these old people, most of them you can't see the hands for most of these old people. Now I say animating, these people are moving, so you can see that they're nodding and enjoying the music. They're moving a little bit. So these are animated people, except for the 2 on the sofa who are asleep. But what we'll see here is, I think this is really what I'm looking at, is if you look down here at this, the old guy at the front, his hand's there. It looks like it, doesn't it? But in reality it's not. His hands are in his lap and are obscured. We've got the lady here in the front. We can just see maybe 2/3 of her hand, and if you look close it's really quickly drawn with a hint of a thumb from the other hand. This guy, yeah, we can see a hand, but we can only see a portion of his other hand. While these 2 characters in the back, this old couple in the back, I did draw the hands, but you can't really see hers at all, and I really liked the gesture of him holding this cup, and I made sure that we could see that part. And the big reveal here that I think makes my point a bit clearer is the fact that those 2 people who are asleep on the sofa, and I'll get rid of we'll get rid of those people in front. So these 2 people on the sofa, in fact, not only did I not draw the hands, I didn't draw arms for either of them, and in fact they don't even have butts. I didn't even draw a butt on these guys. So there you go. So that is the importance of how you can use hands, suggest that they're there, so you can add some attitude with those hands, even though you're barely hinting that they exist. So that's one way to handle hands. 2, don't move the fingers. And what really this is about is drawing the hands, a single flat image. You're not intending to move the fingers at all. It's just a picture of the hand, simple shapes. Just keep that shape just static. So you're not moving. All you're doing is maybe you're moving it at the wrist, and that's kind of about it. If you draw it so that it fits in the picture, you can add just a little bit of movement, and it will give the impression that you've got a fully functional hand without all the work that's involved. And if you use this in the right places, it can save you a lot of time. I've got an example for you here. Okay, this is a woman that's going to be appearing in a music video. Look at the hands. So the idea of this character, all she's doing, she's kind of standing there, and I think in the video she'll be standing kind of knees up, or from the knees up, and she's going to be just holding her hand out to a chap that will then take her by the hand. See the hand? It's just a single vector layer, 1, 2, 3 basic shapes. That's all it is. This hand likewise is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes. But you see how simple that drawing is. Just get the animation moving. I'll let it run. Okay, we've got way more than I used. She's only appears on the screen for a couple of seconds, so the animation is just a little hokey. But you can see that hand as it comes forward. it moves, the wrist moves a little bit, but you get that feeling that there's actually a hand in there. And then the other hand, I'm going to take the focus off there. The other hand here at the back, you can see that as the hand comes up, just flex it a little bit, and it just adds just a little bit of life to it. She's putting on a silly expression. I think this file was the one I was using to test see if the rig works right. So, but you get the idea. Number 3, switch layers. Ordinarily, I think that switch layers work really well with those static images. So if you do have the image of a hand, someone maybe you want a hand to open, let go of a cup, and you're using flat images, well then you would have 2 images. Draw one holding the cup, the other letting go of the cup, and you can switch between those with switch layers. No need to rig the hands separately, just line up the images in switch layers, and that can create a very interesting and very effective way of moving a hand with minimal rigging, actually with no rigging whatsoever. I've got an example of this, so you can use this with complex rigs as well, and I'm going to show you an example where I actually use a complex hand rig, but I think that you'll see just how useful this could be using it with static images. Okay, we're back in the rest home sequence here. What I've got here is I've got Jared, who's playing his guitar, and he's got this hand here. This is actually a complex hand rig, which I'll be talking about in just a minute. But I've got it posed statically, so it will be very much should be the same as a flat image. So you see how the hand starts in one location there, and then it flips. That's a completely different hand rig. And I will get that moving. And I'm just using the left and right arrow just to go frame by frame. But and that's all that is. That's just a switch frame. If actually you can look, if I as I scroll back and forth here, you can see that switch layer change down here on the right hand side. Now if I play that at full speed, I just hit space here, you can just see how effective that is. It doesn't even look like, it looks like there was a smoother animation than there was because of the way I had timed it. But there you get the idea there. So number 4. Number 4. So these next 2 points here are about hand rigs. So rigging, so using smart bones, actions, whatever, to create your hands. And I've split these into 2. And the first one is simple or specific one-use rigged hands. Bit of a mouthful there. But they're simple, is that we're not spending as much time as we would on obviously a more complex one. The idea is to create a rig to do one thing, not to try and do everything all together, which could take hours and hours, but just rig something, a hand, to do a simple task that you will use just that one time for that one specific event. And you can really take your time, you can really do it quickly, it's the opposite of taking time, and then just draw part of the hand and just make it do that one little thing that you want to do. For instance, like using a remote control, which I did for a music video. So this rig, all this hand does is exactly what it looks like he's doing. He's hitting a remote control, switching a channel, or in this case I think he's actually turning it off. And this is really quite straightforward. That's all we've got. It's just the arm. I didn't even bother drawing as far as the elbow. It is the arm, and pretty much the palm is a single layer. I'll turn these off. Single layer. That is the forefinger, which is behind the remote control. And we're looking at 4 shapes right there. The remote control can be as detailed as you need it to be. Obviously, this is again very, very simple. No real details on it. Other parts here is I've got just the tip of the thumb, and I've got the top of the hand as the top of the hand as well, which includes the fingers and the thumb. And as far as bones are concerned, we've got 1 bone for the arm, and I've got 1 bone for the palm. And this hand is not intended to do, like I said, it's only supposed to do just switch the TV on and off. And the thumb is a 3-parter. The tip of the thumb is there's no point binding. This is just a layer binding on the thumb, layer binding everything else on here. The bones here, this is the only part that has point binding on the bones, and you just see it doesn't go very far. It breaks right away. This is only to do this one thing. There you go, that's it. That's all I created it for. Bang. And I've got an example of that being used, the actual video where I used that, a clip of it. So just hang around just for a few more minutes and you'll see that in action. Number 5, universal, general use, complex hand rigs. So this is almost, I think, the holy grail, is to have a hand rig that you can use that will do absolutely everything. So you never have to draw a hand again. So we attempt to just draw the hand so that we can manipulate it with different bones, and then we can see it from all angles. We can stick on a character and we know it's going to work. That's the idea. It really doesn't work that way, and I'll explain in the pros and cons in just a minute. But first, here are some hand rigs that I have done. These are 3 different hand rigs that I have created. The one on the left here and the one on the right are basically the same rig. I've just used the same shapes, changed them slightly, reordered them, but I rigged these all basically the same way. And we can have a look. This is the far hand. When someone's walking, you tend to see the thumb closest to you when someone's walking from side to side. The furthest hand has the thumb towards you. That's why I've called that one far hand. Those of you who are listening, those of you who are paying attention now to what's happening on the right. And this one is the near hand because the little finger or the thumb is furthest away. Anyway, that's the general idea. That's why I called them that. Leave me alone. And I'll talk about the one on the far right, in just a little bit. So they're all these two, the one on the left and the center, are pretty much rigged the same way. I've got a hand. Fingers are independently rigged. I use 2 bones and not 3. Here we go. You can see that. You can see I've got some smart actions right there on the bones over the bends. The finger changes shape a bit. This is all point binding on here. I've got a thumb. This is 3 parts. I've got the fingers set up so that they will foreshorten. Okay, so we got the base of the thumb and the tip of the thumb, and again they'll all foreshorten, and we can do an awful lot with these hands. I did find that even so, this one I'm really happy with how this one turned out, but it is still very limited. And of course then I've got the hand turn as well. I can turn the hand around. So it kind of works on most things, but it does also have its limits. This one is a specific use, but complex hand. This was intended for guitar playing. So you'll notice in my early shot there, we've got Jared playing there. He's actually playing chords. So how I can actually get these characters all here to play basic chords. I mean, they can definitely, if there's a chord that can be played, but the odds are we can do it with this hand rig. And the way this one works is really quite straightforward. So we've got the back of the hand, a little bit of the wrist there because the hand's bent a little bit. I can foreshorten this a little bit. That thumb can go up against the bottom of the guitar if you want to, or I can hide it entirely. There we go. You get the idea there. We've got this hand. 3 segments of it are independently bound using point binding to this. I've got limits there because it will break, and it will be really annoying when I'm fiddling around. If I don't have the bone constraints on, it will break. So this just helps it look good. I know it's going to look good. I've got the middle finger, which doesn't have any specific rigging on that one other than the foreshortening. Same with the ring finger, and I've got the little finger, and I've got some special little bone constraints on there, as well as the control bone. This is the control bone for the fingertip. Makes life a little easier. And yep, so that's it for that one. And the idea is then I can just I can use this one as a, oh no, we got, sorry, that finger can bend and this one can bend that way. So I've got them sorted out. So then I can get this guy to play. Oh, there we go. Right. So we can get these guys to play. If I can remember how to play if I can remember how to fit the chord, there we go. Right. There we go. So we can play a barre E shape kind of chord there. Those of you we can maybe get it to play a C if I'm careful. And then that one there you go. Kind of like that. You get the idea. Again, all of my rigs have limits, but there you go. You get the kind of idea. So I can play most chords, and I just need to position the hand where it needs to go. The pros are is that you can reuse these rigs again and again and again on multiple different characters. So you can create them to do certain things or to do lots of things, and create it once, you never have to create it again, or you really only have to tweak them. But the problem is, and this is one of the biggest cons, the more complex they are, the more time it will take to create. the more time it will actually take to animate, because now we're not just moving a hand in a particular direction. Now we've got to manually position each of the fingers exactly where we want them, maybe hide them, realizing that, oh, there's a little, that one, it breaks there, I've got to move that point and animate. And it gets really, really, really time consuming. And probably the biggest con whatsoever, regardless of how much time you put into these universal rigs, they will never, ever do everything well at all. And they'll be far more limited than you probably thought they would be when you started to work on it. But still, if you can find something that can do a lot, like I have, I've got those two hand rigs, they seem to work for me at the moment, then great. It will save me time creating hands for the characters that I use those on. Okay, I've got a bonus tip for you. Bonus tip. I was planning on doing a flash graphic there. Did it come up? I can't remember if I did it or not. Create for yourself a reusable library of hands. So what I mean is not to go out and create a library, but use the hands that you create as you create them. Put them all in a single location, maybe put them all into the same MOHO file, or put them into groups of MOHO files, or put the individual files in a folder somewhere so you can access them. Because there's no reason why you can't reuse the static hands and the limited hand rigs that you've created for other uses, whether it's, even though it wasn't for the use that you originally intended, you might find something that you can use that will work really well in a different scenario, saving you all the time of creating that rig from scratch. Okay, so this is one of my files. Drop everything in. You'll see on the right hand side there that I've got grouped by women's hands, men's hands. I've got some obviously rigged hands there. We've got the guitar hand in there, down there, which I can just kind of use to do an import into MOHO. And I've got lots of hands. I've got 3 or 4 or even 5 other files very similar to this. You'll see I've got the cup hand, grabbing, turning over rig, and this is the corresponding hand as well, which is even more simply rigged. There we go, right? So that's, but you'll see in a second just how I didn't rig that. I didn't put more effort into this hand because it's not really doing anything on screen at all. But there you go. There's a tip. Put it together. You've done the work. You may as well reap the rewards of the work down the road, as well as for the current project. And to encourage you further, that one hand that I did with the hand that turns the cup over, I'm going to show you the video now where I used that, and examples of other videos where I use the exact same hand. Saves me so much time. And really, unless I pointed out, you probably would never have noticed it. Okay, so this, I'm going to pause this here. So this is a girl on the streets. In this story, she's this is right at the beginning of the action. Someone throws her a coin, she picks it up and has a look at it. Here we are. Chink, there's money in there. There we go. So you see how little I needed to enact, I needed to add to that hand that caught it. It doesn't do anything. Here we go. So this is now Jared's hand reaching over, hitting the snooze button in the music video for Running Through the Maze. Again, I'll try, and if I remember, I'll put a link in the description. Exactly the same hand. You'll notice I changed the color on the sleeve. Same with this one, exactly the same hand, just changed the color of the sleeve. Here we go. Oh, and here we go. So this is the hand, the same hand, but a close-up. Okay. And that's the remote control. There you go. So hopefully you found this useful or interesting, or both. And if you'd like more details on how to actually do these things, I'm planning on creating some tutorials on creating hands as soon as I've posted this video, which I'll release as soon as they're ready. So subscribe so you don't miss them, or if you're coming to this late, check out the playlist that I'll probably forget to create. And don't forget, if you can imagine it, you can bring it to life.